All right. So in this video, we are talking about things that kids can and can't do in Crew 45. So one of the biggest excitements for the kids is that they finally get a job to do. They got their shirt on, and they're excited to be part of the service in some way. And so there's different things that we want to make sure that we set kids up for success for. And so one of those ways, once they have their shirt and they arrive, you want to have a huddle with your kids as much as you can before service. Give out the assignments that they're going to have. We like to call them a special assignment or a job, but special assignment just sounds like a little more cool. So it's like, this is just for you. And you had mentioned it's important to balance out. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so you want to make sure when you're giving out jobs that everyone has a job within your group. So some groups may be bigger than others, and so some groups may have 10 students while others may only have 2. So just make sure that it's evenly placed, and if anything pops up during the service, just go to the next person who has less jobs or something like that, who hasn't been able to do something throughout the service.
Yeah. So basically make sure everybody has something to do to contribute throughout the day, which is great. And when you're assigning the special assignments, always give clear instruction and show the kids how to do it. So that's one way that kids will learn, not just being told what to do, but being shown. And you also want to think too, what is this child naturally good at? So if a child is naturally more extroverted, they might be a really great fit for greeting kids or for helping with certain parts of the service. But if someone's more shy or more introverted, they may not feel comfortable doing those things. Now, that doesn't mean they can't greet other kids. In fact, I think it's good to find a balance of things to challenge them to step out of their comfort zone a little bit, but then you want to walk with them through it. So if a child is like really nervous about something, remember they're kids, okay? So help them do it. Maybe put them with another kid in Crew 45 like you have done before, or do it with them. So like, hey, I know you're a little, why don't we greet kids together as they're coming in, and then you and I can do this together. And that's setting kids up for success so they can feel like they're really learning and doing great with this. So always think about that. Think about your kids. Don't just give them things that they want to do. Give them things that will challenge them as well. And you can rotate back and forth. And the more you get to know your kids, the more you're going to find out, hey, what their sweet spot is and what they enjoy. But let's talk about some things like, what are things that kids in Crew 45 can do that's a good thing for them to own in Kids Zone?
Yeah, so some of the things that they can do is pass out papers, supplies for small groups or games. They can also help with setup or tear down for games or stories or activities. They can hand out lollipops or snacks. They can pick the secret word from the story, greet kids as they come in, like we said before. They can also, this is a big part, I think every kid should be doing, is being paired with a new child as their buddy during the large group. So right now we're in COVID. I know you can't really do that, but they can sit next to someone who's new or who's younger. We don't want kids who are in Crew 45 to stay in their own little huddle. They want them to go out and to experience and to help other kids go through the service. So they can also be paired with a new 4th and 5th grader as their buddy during large group and small group as well, since they're going to be together. And then they can also be asked to pray for their small group. Now, if they are being able to pray in their small group, I do recommend having a leader to back them up after, so they can have the opportunity to pray, but then you can give a strong prayer afterwards and just end it there from that on.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is have them, like if they're nervous about praying out loud, have them watch you do it one week and then say, hey, next week I want you to pray, but watch how I do it this week, and really walk them through it and coach them. That can be a really great way to set them up for success. And with all of those things, especially with the buddy system, which is great, that's teaching kids, like you said, out of their own little huddle. It's teaching them to see other kids that are in the room, and how if they see a kid that's sitting by themselves or might look sad, they can invite them to play with them, or they can really bridge the gap in making them feel welcome. That's a great leadership skill that if kids learn how to do that, that changes the world, not just at church, but wherever they are. So one other thing that they can do, on occasion, we'll ask kids to help with the story on stage if I'm teaching, or to assist with worship. But this should always come from me, not from you. So you guys don't have to make that decision. In fact, I would never promise the kids like, hey, you're going to be in the story, or you might be in the story today. This is why. Okay, we know that they're still kids. They're still in Kids Zone. If we put kids on stage often, that can start to feed into this nasty thing called pride and make them appear or feel like they're better than the other kids because they're on stage. And so think about that. You might have 4th and 5th graders that are not in Crew 45 that are seeing somebody else on stage, and then that Crew 45 kid gets this big head of like, oh yeah, I was on worship today, and like I'm better than you. And they might not say that, but they could exhibit that in their behavior, and that does not show the attitude that we want them to have if they're serving leaders. And we also want to give kids things when they're ready. So a brand new 4th grader that just started serving, to put them on stage or to give them something where they have this weight of being in the spotlight too soon can actually be a really negative thing for them. And so we want to think about that as the adults in the room. So me and the service coordinators, Brianna, like we want to be thinking about that. So you guys don't have to make that decision, but just be aware of that too. If you do notice ego in your kids, like that's a great thing to have a conversation with them about. Remember, this is not all about us. We're here to serve. We're here to think about Jesus and think about the other kids in the room. So that's why we say, occasionally we are going to use them on stage, and I like to do that to give them that perk of like being part of behind the scenes, but they're not a Kid Zone leader yet, and there should be a difference between a Kid Zone leader and a Crew 45 student leader. All right, so with that in mind, here's things that we don't want them to do. So Crew 45 kids, all the things Brianna said, those are great. The things that they should not do, they should not assist in a younger age small group. So if they're a 4th and 5th grader, they shouldn't help in a kindergarten grade group. And this is why. Crew 45 kids are still kids. So when they come to church, to Kid Zone, they're not, and even if they come to multiple services, this is their time to come to church and learn about Jesus. They need to have small group time to have discussion with kids their age. They need to have prayer and worship time for them. So we don't want to take them away from that. So if they're leaving their small group to help in another small group, they're actually losing that time where they could be fed and inspired by their leaders, which is you. Okay, so we don't want kids in Crew 45 to help in a younger grade. Now, if a kid wants to do that, if that's something that they're excited or interested in doing, you still want to encourage them and say, hey, that's something you can do when you get to be 6th and 7th grade. You can start helping in Kid Zone as an official Kid Zone leader. But right now, we really want to prepare you and teach you what it is to be a leader. We want, watch what I do when I'm leading the small group today. Just keep an eye on what I do and note for those things in the future. So that's not telling them no forever, but it's no right now so that they can continue to develop. The second thing that we don't want them to do, they should never be a second person assistant for the sensory room or the pre-K room. So when we have the pre-K room open, we always have an adult in there, and we need to have a second person assisting them. We don't want to send a Crew 45 kid because, again, they are still a child. They're not able to make a decision if a preschooler starts crying. They have not gone through our process and our training of what to do, how to interact with the kid appropriately. They should not have to make those decisions. They're still a kid themselves. So don't put a child in a position where they need to make big decisions like that. Even if they're an assistant, even if they're quality and they would be good at it, we don't want to put them in that position until they're at least in 6th grade, okay? The third thing, they should not be part of the Kid Zone leader huddles before service. And again, here's why. We want to have some separation between Kid Zone and Crew 45. So if you're a leader in Kid Zone, we have the huddles where we're pulling everybody together, we're going over the service schedule, we're praying, we're sharing vision, we're sharing things that we needed to work on as a team. If a Crew 45 kid is a part of that, not that could necessarily hurt a lot, but it's too soon for them. So they're hearing all these things and they could think, okay, I'm ready to lead, but they have not gone through our training, nor should they, until they're at least 6th grade. So it's good to have that separation. So do have a huddle with your leader, or with your kids, in Crew 45 separately, but don't bring them into the Kid Zone huddle, because it's important that we have the ability to have those conversations as a Kid Zone team separate from the other kids. All right. And again, they should be serving, but they're not leading other kids or telling them what to do. And so finally, kind of summing up all those things, we don't want kids in Crew 45 to be placed in a position to tell other kids what to do or to make an important decision for others. So this could include some things that we do in service. So we don't want Crew 45 kids to lead the rules or any instructional elements on the mic. So if we're doing a game, I'm not going to tell a Crew 45 kid to tell the other kids what to do, because again, that's building ego and showing them that they can lead the entire room. We don't want kids leading questions in small group time. Again, this is their time to really be fed and hear from God and participate. That's one of the things we challenge them to do. Participate in your small group. Don't check out. Don't think you're better than others, but really participate with the kids. They should not be taking charge of a small group. So even if you have an awesome 5th grader that's like showing a lot of leadership ability, don't give them the reins of like, here's the discussion questions, why don't you lead the small group today? Again, it's just not the right fit for them when they're still in 5th grade themselves. Okay, now unless this is a part of a game, like you may want to do a game and maybe there's a portion of it where it's like, hey, Graham, what do you think would be a fun game that we could play? So you can invite them into contributing ideas and being part of things, but they should never be the ones to make the decision in their small group. That should always be the small group leader. And this probably goes without saying, but we also don't want kids helping with check-in or check-out or locking or unlocking the doors, all of those things that really need to have an adult supervision over. So if a child were to lose a name tag, it doesn't make any sense for a 4th grade child to be having a conversation with a parent about a child that lost a name tag. We just don't want to put kids in that position. Okay, nor should they be leading the tech booth experience or playing DJ for music played in Kids Zone, because what can happen, kids could pick songs that we have not filtered or songs that we approve of, or they could just be crazy and play music on repeat or all kinds of things. So we don't want to ever lose control to a child. This is part of why we don't give kids the microphone. We always want to have control. And so, again, all of these things are helping prepare kids to be leaders in the future, but we want to think about what's healthy for them to grow as leaders at this age group that they're in right now. And if we give them too much too soon, it could actually be detrimental to them and not helpful. So those are a bunch of things. We're going to send this to you in a document as well, so you can see all the things that kids should or shouldn't do as part of Crew 45. But those are all the main special assignments.
You guys are officially ready.
You're awesome. Thank you for being part of Crew 45, guys.